Welcome to another episode of SportsVibe, episode 78 here. I'm your host, Arnav Sarkar. Another big week of sports to get through. Ohio State winning the college football playoff, first year of the 12-team playoff. Some blowout rounds in the beginning, but I think overall the quality of the matchups got better. I mean, the semifinals were both really good. Notre Dame versus Penn State was a thriller. Ohio State versus Texas, a thriller. Ohio State taking down the Irish. After the Michigan loss, all bets were off on the season. But I mean, 4 straight wins later, dominant wins later, Ohio State is your national champion. Stomping out Tennessee at home when Tennessee fans, basically filled a shoe with their orange. The morale was at an all-time low in Columbus after the Michigan loss. Most people thought they didn't have it in them to turn things around, but I mean, they proved that all wrong right out of the gate. Jeremiah Smith, big touchdown. I mean, Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, 2 touchdowns apiece. I mean, Ohio State just rolled from the beginning. The defense was rock solid. I mean, they looked like the team they were all season once again, and they kind of doubled down on that against Oregon, getting off to a 34-0 lead and big plays all day. I mean, from getting the ball to Emeka Ibuka, Jeremiah Smith, Travion Henderson. I mean, just a miraculous performance there, and the defense equally stifling. I mean, you've got guys like Cody Simon who really stepped up, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, of course, on that formidable defensive line, led by Jim Knowles, just about as good as the offense was on the defensive side of the football. And then continuing into the Cotton Bowl against Texas in Texas. Competition got tougher. I'd say Texas was probably the toughest opponent, although Notre Dame obviously has a case there too. But both of those games back and forth. Ohio State took the lead. Texas answered back. Travion Henderson on a 75-yard screen pass, which is really more than 75 yards behind the line of scrimmage. But anyway, taking it all the way to the end zone. Texas answering, and then Quinshon Judkins scoring early fourth or mid fourth, and then Texas knocking on the door, set themselves up with some pass interferences. 1st-and-goal at the 1. I mean, you don't think it can get easier than that, but that run defense stifling for Ohio State. Texas took a risk, pitched it to the edge, and then Jack Sawyer, returned the fumble 83 yards the other way for a Buckeyes touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, that defense stifling, of course. Texas knocking on the door, got forced into 3rd and long, incomplete pass, 4th down, strip sack. Jack Sawyer against his former roommate and former OSU quarterback Quinn Ewers there, and Jack Sawyer able to basically seal that one for the Buckeyes. And then in the national championship game itself against the Fighting Irish, the Irish, they had a good game plan. I mean, the first drive was impressive, 10-minute drive. A lot of running plays, a lot of keeping the drive alive. Riley Leonard going for the 3rd down and 1. The rushing yard leader at 40 yards. Also had a good game on the ground too. 22 of 31. A lot of air yardage leader, 255, 2 touchdowns. But it was Ohio State who really took over, tied the game. Jeremiah Smith, only guy in the field. That's a problem. Quinshon Judkins, 3 touchdowns, a long rushing yard, a long rushing play there. So he went for 100 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and then a receiving touchdown as well. So 3 consecutive touchdowns by Quinshon Judkins, a masterclass there. Jeremiah Smith had a good game like usual. Ibuka as well. Jane Fielding got his groove together in the field goal game, but Notre Dame definitely did not go away, even despite being down 31-7. They tried to put together a comeback. Jaden Greathouse stepping up from the Penn State game onto this game. I mean, he was really the big playmaker. 34-yard pass from Leonard, completed the 2-point conversion with Jeremiah Love, and then another one, and then some trickery with Jordan Faison, the other receiver, who also plays across, getting it to Bo Collins, cutting it to a 1-score game. In the middle of that, Notre Dame had another chance to cut it further, missed a field goal, banked it off the upright. A lot of people thought they should just go for a touchdown. I definitely thought they should have went for a touchdown there as well. Field goal getting you from 16 to 13, not really gonna do the work, but they still gave themselves a chance, going down 8. but Ohio State, Notre Dame bringing pressure, left basically rush 7, left 4 in coverage, and Jeremiah Smith burning their corner there. I forgot what his name was, but Christian Gray, burning him in single coverage, and Jane Fielding able to ice it away. So no field goal woes, because everything that could go wrong went wrong in the Michigan game. Jane Fielding missed 2 field goals. The game plan was horrible, but on top of that, I mean, Fielding missed 2 field goals. There's interceptions. I mean, this game, like, not much of any of that, to be honest with you. And Ohio State really turned it around. The offense unstoppable, and the defense was lights out. I mean, this is the $20 million team that was built over the offseason, and you could argue they bought themselves a national championship, but NIL money, it's a real thing. And the Bucks did play hard, on the field, of course, too. And they definitely did have the best team. They lived up to it, and they not only defeated but blew out some of the best teams in football. I mean, you're talking about a 10-2 team in the SEC and Tennessee, although you could argue the SEC was a little overrated, but I mean, still, like, a 10-2 team in the Vols, number 1 seed Oregon, who went undefeated, beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten championship. Number 3 Texas, who won the Cotton Bowl, or didn't win the Cotton Bowl, but runners up in the SEC, and gave Ohio State, I would say, their toughest task. And then Notre Dame even putting up a valiant comeback, another blue blood program after losing to NIU, making it to the national championship game. I mean, you gotta love Marcus Freeman, you gotta love Riley Leonard, the heart and soul. Jaden Greathouse, a great player as well. Jeremiah Love, the running back, did not go down. I mean, they defeated Georgia. Like, that's a good team in the Irish too, but Ohio State ended up being too much. But I mean, I'm happy. I do like them, but I mean, it was a really good way to end, like, a good playoff. I'd say the early runs were definitely blowout heavy, but later on you get better, and maybe some tweaks might be in order for this thing. I think the seeding was a little bit off. I think the best teams, the conference champions shouldn't necessarily get a bye, but they should be in the field. All the conference champions and all the teams who ended up getting a bye ended up losing pretty early on, I believe. So I mean, maybe, like, not the best oversight there, but overall, I think 12 teams. It was a fun playoff. It's always fun when you have football, more football, and I mean, you could argue maybe it could be 8, but I mean, the first 4 games all kind of blowouty. Even the second round kind of, a bit of blowouts. But even the NFL, like, that does, like, tend to happen to an extent as well. But maybe something could be done to clean that up. I don't know, but I mean, I think overall, like, I think it gives the best teams a chance. I think the seeding was a little bit off. Like, obviously, you can argue Penn State had an easier path, Oregon had a very hard path. You could argue different things that 12 teams is too much, but I think the first round all being blowouts, and then it just the quality definitely got better as the rounds got on. But I think that is kind of the point of this. I think it is more fun because with only 4 teams, there's only so much you could do. And, Ohio State and Notre Dame wouldn't even have gotten into the field. So I think this definitely, was a way of giving every deserving team, a bid, and maybe even some that might not have been so deserving. But I think every deserving team got a bid. And, I think at the end of the day, the quality did rise to the top, and we ended up seeing, like, who really was the best. And I think the 4 semifinalists, Notre Dame, Penn State, Ohio State, Texas, I think those were really the best, because that's how the games did play out. They played out in a high quality way, and I was happy with the later rounds of the stage. So we'll see how we can tweak this format going forward. But yeah, I mean, so maybe some changes in store, but I think overall a successful debut of the 12-team college football playoff. Obviously, happy to see Ohio State win that one, but the NFL, big week in store here. First of all, reviewing these divisional games. First of all, Texans versus Chiefs. I mean, the Texans, they outgained the Chiefs in every statistical category. I mean, they in a lot of ways were the better team on offense, but on defense, we're not necessarily the best, team. I mean, the Texans really gave themselves a good shot to win, but they committed a lot of penalties to derail drives. They missed extra points, field goals. I mean, you can't do all of this against the Chiefs. Like, allowed 8 sacks, by the way, which was some sacks, penalties, and missed field goals, missed opportunities. You can't do that against Kansas City because, they're a team who might not have the best offense right now, although they are loaded with talent on that side of the ball too. But they're ferocious. They don't make mistakes. Their special teams has been excellent, and you can argue all you want that they've won games by ridiculous things like blocked field goals. And I do agree that is absolutely ridiculous the way they have been winning games. But they don't commit penalties. They know the rules. They know how to block a field goal, and that's like hard. So you could just say that's luck, and like I'd love to say it's luck and they don't deserve that, but that's still like a football play. Like these are real things that decide the games. Like Rutgers does this very well too. Special teams is important. Defense very important. Steve Spagnuolo and that defense, they deserve a lot of credit because the Texans put up 14 points against a very good Chiefs team. Now the offense is where I'll take issue with them a little bit, but Mahomes played a good game. He's always going to, he knows how to scramble. He knows how to get the penalties. They've been a little bit kind of crazy lately, but, that is what it is. I mean, the Texans knew what they were up against. And, they if they really wanted to win, they needed to play more disciplined. They needed to play better. Not allow a lot of sacks and penalties, make the field goals. I mean, do the simple stuff because, the Chiefs ended up getting the calls. Who really did stand out for the Chiefs on offense? Patrick Mahomes had a good game like usual, 16 for 25, 177 and a touchdown. But I mean, looking at this, the player stats here, not a lot went on offense, really. I mean, Kareem Hunt, 44 yards on 8 carries. Okay. Isaiah Pacheco, 5 yards, 5 carries, 18 yards. A very quiet game. I mean, Travis Kelce went off, and that was a big difference maker. He looked like Kelce of old. Security blanket over the middle, catching downfield passes, and even the pass where Mahomes was falling down and Kelce wide open there in the end zone, and reminding people that he's still the Kelce of old. And Xavier Worthy, 5 yards, five catches, 45 receiving yards. So everybody was just quiet. I mean, Smith-Schuster, no catches. DeAndre Hopkins, no catches. Samaje Perine, I guess reserve back, no catches. Okay. Hollywood Brown, no catches. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco, not used in the receiving game. Kareem Hunt, not used in the receiving game. Justin Watson, not even on the list here. You know what I mean? So it's just 2 players, and they won. You could give the credit to the offense, but I would choose to give the credit to the defense. I think they're underrated. I think they don't get nearly the credit they deserve. I think, the offense has kind of just been messing around this year, and the defense has really been winning them the games. And, that's credit to Steve Spagnuolo bringing the pressure, the packages. And on offense, yes, they do know what to do. They brought in Kareem Hunt when Pacheco went down. They brought in Smith-Schuster. They have weapons. I would like to see them being used in the playoffs, and I think they're going to need that in the next round. But they do enough on offense. They're very good on defense. They're very good on special teams. And maybe they even have the refs on their side this year too. So they've won a lot of close games. They know how to do it. They've been winning for so long. But defense, special teams has been carrying them. And when you have players like Mahomes, Kelce, I mean, they're going to find a way on offense. They just will. But that's basically the first game. So the Chiefs get the wins. The Chiefs get the win over the Texans. They find enough on offense to get to 23. Their defense does a heck of a job limiting them to 14. And of course, the Texans make a bunch of mistakes too that takes points off the board. So, although the Texans probably outplayed the Chiefs on offense, Kansas City gets the win. They move on. Commanders versus Lions, quite the opposite of the first game because there was hardly any defense here to be found. I mean, Jared Goff had decided to have a bad game at the worst time. 1 touchdown to 3 picks. 313 yards. So just a bit surprising. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously the playmakers got going. But for Washington, I mean, they won a shootout. They put 45 points on the number 1 seed in the NFC. Jane Daniels, 22 for 31. I mean, his completion percentage has just been unreal all year. 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, a good rushing threat as well. We got Brian Robinson, 77, 2 touchdowns. You got De'Ami Brown, Zach Ertz. I mean, a variety of, you got Scary Terry Lauren, who I've always liked, even though being a Giants fan. I mean, they have a heck of a team, a lot of points scored in that second quarter. I mean, 31-28. Lions try to cut it down, but Washington doubled down on it in the fourth quarter, 45-28. And that's all the Lions were able to get to. So, 45-31, that's all she wrote. Detroit out. I mean, really disappointing. They were the number 1 seed. They're supposed to be in this game hosting the Eagles this week, but instead, Washington, I mean, they were 4-12 a year ago, and this year they're 14-5. I mean, like 12-5, 14-5. I mean, it's just unbelievable, like what they've done. You get this is kind of like an indictment on the Giants because, you talk about culture wins and like all that BS. Like, I mean, like, you talk about winning one game and now like you lose out on a prospect like Jane Daniels. And I mean, I cannot believe people would be defending the Giants for beating the Colts this year, because that could have had even more catastrophic effects if they also decided to go out there and beat the Philadelphia Eagles, which they very well could have because they played their starters. They would have been out of quarterback again. They wouldn't have been able to trade for one. They probably would have been out on Travis Hunter. I don't understand why that's a good idea, just to win a meaningless game in September. But at least they lost to the Eagles, so they saved their draft pick status. Thank God. Now, speaking of those Eagles, holding off the LA Rams, 28-22. This one, quite an interesting game. I mean, Jalen Hurts is really being carried by his team. I mean, he had 15 for 20, 128 yards, and yeah, he was banged up. He scored a 44-yard rushing touchdown, and we haven't seen that out of him in a while. But I mean, Saquon Barkley's been carrying this team. I mean, this offense at least. I mean, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, this defense is ferocious. They have the Georgia, Bulldog defensive line on their. They have a good secondary. I mean, they have Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, and C.J. Carter Johnson. I mean, they have all these guys. I mean, Darius Slay. I mean, they're playing at a high level right now. And Saquon Barkley on offense is really carrying the show. He had a 62-yard run, later a 78-yard run. In the middle of that, I mean, the Rams put up a good fight. Field goal game. Rams even got a safety where Jalen Hurts couldn't get away from there, but they fumbled. The Eagles ended up putting a field goal. Touchdown, and I thought that would be where the game ended, but boy, was I wrong. Like, I mean, the Rams did everything right to basically try to win the game. At that point, they scored a quick touchdown within under 2 minutes, 2:48 to be exact, able to get into the end zone. They get a stop. I believe they get the stop with all 3 timeouts. They have the 2-minute warning, and they drive down again. Puka Nacua makes a ridiculous catch, and they still lose the game. It's just like, I mean, you can't make this up. Like, I mean, they have one false start penalty, and suddenly their drive is derailed. The momentum is derailed. The offense is derailed. The defense was on their heels. They could have probably just gotten in, but because of one penalty, Eagles able to get there, sack Stafford, fourth down, incomplete pass, and just like that, like, Eagles are in the NFC Championship game. The Rams, who, basically people thought were dead in the water after Saquon's touchdown, almost put together the perfect comeback. Like I said, did everything right, and they still lost, and it's very frustrating. But it does set us up with Commanders versus Eagles on the bright side. So the last game here, Bills versus Ravens. This was the game of the round. A lot of people might even say maybe the game of the playoffs, but we'll have to see, because I mean, Bills and Chiefs is like an even more fantastic game. I mean, it's the ultimate rivalry, but we'll get to that in just a second. But Bills versus Ravens here, I mean, a little bit of a quieter game for Josh Allen, because it was, especially with the snow and everything, but he still went 16 for 22, 127. Lamar Jackson had some uncharacteristic turnovers. He had a fumble, he had an interception, 254 yards on 18 for 25, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Derrick Henry, 84 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Likely, 73 yards and a touchdown, but Baltimore falling short. James Cook, 17 for 67. Shakir also at 67 yards on 6 receptions, but back and forth. Buffalo takes the lead, 21-10. You think they might have control of the game. Baltimore comes back, hits a field goal. Justin Tucker, the best goat kicker. And then Derrick Henry, unable to tie the game. They miss a 2-point conversion. So this 2 points kind of comes back and bites them later, because Buffalo hits, Tyler Bass hits a 51-yard field goal, a 21-yard field goal, and then the 2-point conversion fails. Lamar Jackson intending, trying to get the pass to Isaiah Likely, well, that was the touchdown pass rather. So the Ravens, basically in a 2-minute drill, trailing by 8, they need the 2-point conversion, but Mark Andrews runs the perfect route and drops the ball. And, Ravens fans are going to hate him, which, it's unfortunate because he had a good year. But, so Buffalo survives, quite the game that could have went to overtime potentially, or the Bills could have ended up, scoring a game-winning field goal. They had plenty of time, so Buffalo takes down Baltimore. So yeah, I mean, that was probably the best game, but this championship weekend is going to be terrific, because we have Eagles, Commanders, and Bills, Chiefs. 2 really good games. So Jalen Hurts a little bit banged up. Again, he might, wear a knee brace. Um, he like I said, his offense has been carrying him, but he's made plays on the, they have their weapons in AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. They have good O line. They have Saquon Barkley. The defense is solid. Overall, the team's probably better. The Eagles are probably the better team, but Jaden Daniels on the offense has been playing out of their minds lately. Can they win the game? Yes. It's going to be interesting. I mean, it's a division rivalry in the NFC Championship game. I mean, this is going to be a big one. I think the Commanders are going to be up for the task, especially with Jalen Hurts a little banged up. But Saquon Barkley is going to probably rush for like another 150 yards or something like that, I would assume. The defense is going to be stout. I think my prediction for this game, I don't know. It's really hard, but I mean, my key to the game, I would say, is that if the Commanders can put up 40, not 45, but they're not going to put up 45 against this Eagles defense with their secondary and, all their guys. But I mean, if they could put up 30, I don't, Eagles are going to have to play from behind. They're going to have to pass. I mean, can they? Yes. I don't think they could keep up if they have to score 30 points. You throw the ball through the air. I would say make Jalen Hurts throw it. You know what Saquon Barkley can do on the ground. If the Commanders put up 30, I think they can get out with a win. If the Commanders end up putting up like 20, 15 to 20, low 20s, I think the Eagles get out with the win just like they did against LA. But I think if the Commanders start opening it up, I don't think the Eagles are built for a shootout this year. They've won a lot of low-scoring games. Their offense hasn't looked too great lately. So I mean, I could be wrong, but like, I don't know. I don't see. I mean, if they have to go through the air and take the game away from Saquon Barkley, rely on their receivers, rely on Jalen Hurts, I think Commanders are getting out the win if they put up 30 points. Will they? I don't know. I want to see the Commanders win. Eagles probably are gonna end up winning, unfortunately, but we'll see. And then the other game, Bills versus Chiefs. This is another interesting one. I mean, the AFC, the biggest rivalry in the AFC in football. I mean, the playoffs and everything. The Bills always win the regular season. Did this year. Only Chiefs loss of the regular season was this year to the Bills, other than the 38-0 game against Denver's backups. But that doesn't really count. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. I mean, the Bills, probably their best chance to get to the Super Bowl. The Bills have looked just about as good as they've ever looked, if not better. I mean, defensively, yes, but offensively, they've been on another level. Josh Allen has looked as good as he's ever looked. I mean, the Chiefs have been down all year, and down in quotes. They've won a lot of close games. Their defense has been great. And again, it doesn't deserve enough credit. But, that's what's really winning them these games, folks, is the defense. But their offense has kind of been like mid. They have a lot of weapons. But they just haven't really utilized them in all of the best ways. Sometimes they do, but especially in this last playoff game, they didn't. They still found a way to win. Travis Kelce, Mahomes. I mean, you got Mahomes getting penalties left and right. You've got an unreal Kansas City defense. You got a team who doesn't make mistakes, but you've got a Buffalo offense that can go out there and score points. And now the question is, can the Chiefs score the same amount of points? Because I think the Bills are going to find a way around Steve Spagnuolo on the blitzes. Although, those are going to be pretty insane. But I think Buffalo, the first game between the two, 30-21 Kansas City, right? So you can expect maybe something similar-ish to that. And the Bills are going to score some points. Can the Chiefs score enough points to knock them off? Obviously, it's the easy question here, but also kind of the hard one in a way, because that like so my prediction for the NFC Championship game, that my key would be if the Commanders can score 30, I think they win. Now here, I don't really have a set number, but I think my bold prediction would be if the Chiefs can utilize all their weapons, and they have a lot of them that they have not been using, and they've still found a way to win. Patrick Mahomes is great. We know that. Travis Kelce is great. Happy to see him at back to his usual self. He's had a horrible season, by the way, but he's played pretty well lately. So one of the best tight ends out there. But they have Xavier Worthy. They have Hollywood Brown. They have Isaiah Pacheco. They have Kareem Hunt, and they have DeAndre Hopkins. They have the receivers and they have the talent to go out there and put together an offensive showing that can complement their defense. And if they do, I think they beat the Bills. If not, I think the Bills can get the upset win. Wouldn't really be much of an upset, especially in that case. But I think the Bills are overdue. I think if the Chiefs just rely on witchcraft and just like making plays that don't even make sense and just using like Travis Kelce and nobody else, then I think the Bills will and should take advantage of that. And I kind of hope they do, honestly, because I'm tired of like this fraudulent stuff going on. I respect the defense. The offense really needs to get it together because the Super Bowl is coming up, and if they find a way to like BS their way through this game, then they might just go ahead and win the whole thing. And in that case, I hope they do. But I think the Chiefs are more talented than what they've been putting out there, which is a scary thought because they are a very talented team. But they're going to need to use their weapons because the Bills certainly will use theirs. So if they can put together, some big plays through the air, they can be explosive. They can win the game by putting up points. Then and have their defense get after Josh Allen. Then I think they'll be able to win. I think if they are able to put up points, by using their playmakers, getting the ball through the air, on the ground, really, putting up points and then backing it up with their defense, because the Bills will now be in a passing situation, they can win a shootout. But if the Bills, end up doing well and the Chiefs kind of stumble around, I think the Bills win. So basically, if the Chiefs kind of play like they have most of the season, the Bills will win it. But if they can, find a gear and use some of those receivers, and I'm sure they will, then I think Kansas City wins. So those are my predictions for this game. I don't really have like a specific like who's gonna win, who's gonna lose, but I don't know. I think the Chiefs, like, I don't see them like finding their. I don't think they're gonna be able to like win like another like. I don't know. I don't think they're gonna win like another game where they don't like they don't really play like that well. So I think they in order for them to win, they have to play really well. Now the Bills, I think this is their year. It's just hard. I don't know, with the refs and with everything, with the game being in Kansas City. They don't lose. They haven't lost this season like hardly at all. But the Bills did beat them. It's just I don't know. I don't know how to pick either of these games. I would obviously want to say Washington and Buffalo. It makes sense for the Bills to win, but I really hope we don't get Eagles versus Chiefs again. Although I would have a nice security blanket for the Eagles, I guess. I don't know. I mean, like I said, the keys to the game are if the Chiefs, use their playmakers. I think they'd be stupid not to, and I think they're gonna find a way. I could just as easily see the Bills finally break through, for the first time, because they're the one team that could probably, they're the one team that could probably, figure it out basically, against Kansas. If there's any team that can beat Kansas City this year, it's Buffalo. They have an offense to back it up. They have the defense to back it up. The Chiefs have taken it to another level. I'd say they use at least some of their talent. They make it look pretty for once this season, and they get it done. I don't know. I think the Chiefs do win. I think the Eagles do win. I think the Eagles are too talented. Their defense is vaunted. They're not going to allow Jane Daniels and Washington to score that many points. As good as Commanders have been, they barely beat the Eagles' backups. It's going to be a different beast. It's in Philadelphia. Saquon Barkley is going to torch them, once again. He's going to have a big game. And, so I think the Eagles just have too much for the Commanders to overcome, even with Jane Daniels. I don't think they get to 30. I think Philly wins that one. So unfortunately, I do think it's going to be Chiefs Eagles. But if there is an upset that's more likely, I do think the Buffalo upset would be more likely. I think they could put together and have the perfect recipe. I would just like to think that for once, the Chiefs do use 3 of their good receivers in this game, at least like 2 of them. I would hope so, because otherwise, what's the point of getting them on your team in the first place? But that is probably going to be it for this episode. This is going to be a great Sunday of football. These 2 games are like top of the top. You got a divisional rivalry in the NFC. You've got a all-time rivalry in the AFC. You have Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I don't think it really gets better than this. And then on the flip side, like I said, the division rivalry. Even though I'm a Giants fan, but it's going to be a really good, exciting weekend of football. May the best teams win, and we'll have the Super Bowl matchup coming up soon. Looking forward to seeing that. Just to look at these matchups, like Eagles Chiefs, that would be a really interesting one. I don't think if the Chiefs get through Buffalo, I think they're way better than I think they're gonna like be better than Philly, because Jalen Hurts is not the Jalen Hurts from 2 years ago, and the Chiefs defense is in fact a heck of a lot better. So that's probably how that one would go. Chiefs Commanders. I think that would be interesting. Mahomes versus Jane Daniels. Could be a little bit of an offensive type game. That one could actually be sneaky interesting if that one were to happen. But yeah, I mean, the Eagles will run the ball a lot, I'm sure. But they have a good defense, but then so do the Chiefs. They have the best, and they could open it up more in the air and stuff like that than the Eagles. Again, like, the receivers will have to come into play here, I think, to knock out Philadelphia as well. But I think they do have that talent. I mean, Philly would run the ball, but the Chiefs could throw it too. So, Chiefs Commanders, I think that could be more of a shootout type game. Bills Eagles, I think the Bills, would have a good chance in getting their Super Bowl over Philly. And then that one could be a very interesting, evenly matched game as well. And then finally, are those all four? Bills Commanders, I think the one people want. I think that could be a lot of fun too. Another offensive shootout type game. Either way, you're going to get good offense, I think, in any of these. But the Chiefs, I think, have the best defense of the bunch, and I think that can make the best difference. That's really why they're so good. I mean, I want you guys to remember that it's that, and it's the fact that they don't make mistakes, they don't commit penalties, they don't miss kicks. It's the defense, really, but I think they can open it up enough to get them the win over Buffalo. I think Philly, unfortunately, does get the win, but I could see both upsets happening. I think the Bills, it's high time for Buffalo. If there's ever a year, it would be this one. It's just a matter of, do the Chiefs get their playmakers involved or not. But if they don't, then I think Buffalo wins it. But with that being said, this has been another episode of Sports Vibe. I'm your host, Arnav Sarkar. Enjoy the games, enjoy the playoffs. I'm looking for the Super Bowl coverage, trying to get some guests. I think week 1 of the Super Bowl coverage, we'll be recapping these two games and kind of a brief overview of the matchup. I think week 2, we're going to do position by position, who's better, just as I did last year with Jitesh. It's been a long time, but in the meantime, this has been another episode of Sports Vibe. I'm your host, Arnav Sarkar, and until next time, we'll see you next week.